According to German philosopher Jürgen Habermas, reason, our capacity to think, is intersubjective in nature, considering we, human beings, acquire this capacity only among other individuals who are capable of speaking. Okay, so here's step one. Reason, thinking is intersubjective. Why? Because we learn how to think in the company of other people. Okay, there is an intrinsic relationship between thinking and speaking. As a matter of fact, maybe it's not the right way to characterize it, a relationship. You can even argue that they're both are one and the same thing because you cannot have thinking without language. And the opposite is true. You cannot have language without thinking. So when you think, when you formulate an idea, a thought in your head, you use words and grammar, friends. The simplest thought you can have, maybe let's say right now you're thinking, if I don't hurry, I'm going to be late for work. Okay, let's say that's one thought you're entertaining in your head right now. Well, imagine, try to picture having that thought without words. It's impossible. You learn all these rules, these grammar rules, like the conditional if then, when you talk to people, you learn, okay, how to use the conditional and what the conditional means, right? And then you learn words, and then you understand the rules of grammar, so you're able to put your words in the right order, in the right place, right? Because you don't think late work if hurry not. No, that's not the way we think. That actually makes no sense. You will not be able to think with just a bunch of words in in this array. You need words and you need grammar. You need the order. And with that you can formulate an idea, a thought. So, well, you can't have that without language. And where does that come from? From people, from our parents first, right? They're the first who teaches us words, like mama, and then other words we learn, right, with mom and dad. And we watch television, we watch cartoons, and we watch the characters interacting, and we're listening, and we're learning, acquiring more vocabulary, right? And then we go to school, and with more words that we learn, we incorporate them into our thinking, and that allows us to articulate and formulate more complex thoughts and ideas. But all these words, all this information comes from people, from speakers. So it's funny how so many people, perhaps most people, they feel like their thinking is so unique and so personal to them, right? Their inner world, and just thinking about stuff and planning and whatever, making plans or fantasizing about anything, doing all this thing in your head, right? Sort of having like a mental conversation with yourself. You think that it's something just so intrinsically subjective, personal, and it's not subjective. It's intersubjective. Thinking is fundamentally collective. Of course, your thoughts belong to you, yes, but you have thoughts because you were surrounded by people who taught you words. So you owe your thinking to people, to speakers. Okay, well, that's the very first step, right? In the idea that I'm sharing with you, that thinking, reason, it's intersubjective in nature. This means that rationality, our ability to think clearly and properly, usefully, Good thinking, friends, it's fundamentally discursive, as it depends on the input of other thinking, speaking individuals. Good thinking is a discourse, it's a conversation. It's true, you can have a conversation with yourself, right? But good thinking, it's you're going to have a much better thinking if you invite others into whatever analysis you're doing. So it's like this. Um, the more people engaged in an analysis, the better the analysis. That's kind of like the rule here, okay? The more people engaged in analyzing something, the better the analysis is going to be. Why? Right? Question why? Because different individuals provide different perspectives. Because different people look at things differently and they're able to look at nuance that you're not seeing. Like, really? How often, and I'm sure it has happened to you the exact same thing. You have a problem, you're trying to fix something and you don't know how. And all of a sudden, you talk about your problem with someone, and this someone says, "Why don't you try this?" And you look at the problem, you go like, "Gosh, that's true, right? Duh, right? Why didn't I think of that? You're right. Yes, thank you." How often has that happened to you? Like in my case, it happens so many times. Like in with my wife. Oh gosh, and because I know the value of the idea of reason being intersubjective and rationality being something discursive, because I fully understand what that means. Whenever I have a problem, friends, my wife is the first person I'm going to address it to, right? And it's because, of course, I live with her. But the more people I invite into an analysis, the better the analysis is going to be. Because, friends, okay, if my wife and I can talk about an issue and I can see how to deal with the issue better because of her perspective and my perspective, that's two. Well, three perspective, that's even better. Because we're inviting someone with a different perspective, with a different background, with different skills, with different experiences. And I'm telling you, they're going to be able to see things that you're not seeing. The more people engaged in an analysis, the better the analysis is going to be, because your your consideration of the analysis, your view on the issue, it's going to become more high resolution. That's what it means, inviting people into the analysis. Now, boy, that's a tremendous idea. And so when I learned this, I remember, and that was a few years ago, I began calling my parents for advice. And at the beginning, they thought it was strange, because growing up, I never asked them for advice. And now I do. Call my parents, my brother, my sister. And I remember when I started doing this, "Hey mom, what do you think I should do? Should I remember one time I was struggling with the idea of either selling my old car or keeping it in, and honestly, I didn't know what to do. I was not in the best financial situation at the moment. And I called her and I said, "Mom, what should I do?" And she gave me a perspective that I was like, "Whoa, right. Yeah, Mom, you're absolutely right." Of course, not everybody is going to give you great feedback. And you're going to recognize, you're going to identify good from bad feedback, right? But give it a shot. And because I've been able to understand problems much better once again, more people engaged with me in analyzing something, the better the analysis. I'm going to see the problem in high resolution. I'm going to be able to see a lot more details and factors that have a have a role in the situation, the setting, and it's going to be easier for me to identify where the problem is and what the solution might be. It's going to be easier for me if I'm counting on other people. That's why good thinking is discursive. It relies on discourse and a conversation. Hey, dude, come here. Help me out here. What do you think? What do you think I should do? And listen, pay attention to what they're going to say because people are going to give you valuable feedback. So, so that's incredible. The other, one thing that became immediately obvious to me when I began to uh, understand, okay, all the implications of this idea of reason being intersubjective and rationality being discursive, I understood why the very first philosophical works, those written by Plato, they are dialogues. I mean, it just makes perfect sense. The very first philosophical works were dialogues, conversations. Pick any book by Plato, and you're going to find always Socrates, right? One of the characters. Socrates and two or three other guys talking about an issue. Socrates always asking the why question, right? The one digging, always. But these other characters in the conversation, they're great because they have a totally different perspective on the same issue. And in the interaction, in the conversation, when you read a Platonic dialogue, you're going to see it. At some point in the dialogue, you're gonna go like, wow. You're going to begin seeing an idea, uh, truth, let's say, manifesting itself in the conversation. You're going to begin looking at the issue from a very different, cool angle. You're going to go like, wow, that's really cool. So it's interesting how Plato didn't write his books like philosophers do now, right? They just tell you all their views about a particular issue. They break down the issue into simple ideas, and then they do all this analysis and all this presentation on their own, right? Habermas will say from a monological standpoint, let's say, just them doing all the thinking and all the explaining. But that's not the way Plato did it, because it was obvious to the first philosophers, to the Greek philosophers, that you needed people to have a conversation with in order to find truth and knowledge. But again, so it required a conversation. So, okay, so that's another idea. Now here's a big one, friends. So let me just take a sip of tea because this one is big. Okay, here we go. Hope you're ready. Therapy. Therapy. What is therapy? It's a conversation. That's what it is. You go to therapy because you have a problem. You feel like there's something wrong with your life. You don't know what it is, but you feel miserable, you feel sad, you feel stressed, anxious, depressed, and you don't know why, but you know that there's something wrong with you. And what do? You seek this professional help, right? Therapist. Now, what does a therapist do? What is a therapist's goal? Simple. They listen to you, they ask questions, they dig with the hope, because this is the goal. The goal is that in the conversation you're having with your therapist, truth is going to manifest itself, and you're going to have an aha moment, a moment of revelation. you're going to go, wow, now I get it. Now I see why I hate my father so much. Just an example. Or, wow, you're connecting the dots, right, with your past, your experiences, your the present, and all these issues you're having, and you go like, wow, now I understand why I get so angry when I'm in this situation. And once you have that realization, once you perceive the truth, that changes everything because you begin to heal. So, this truth, friends, are not just great from an intellectual perspective, they're liberating. They have an amazing positive power. And they're there, but you don't see it. It's not like it's obvious to the therapist what your problem is. It's not because he does not know or she does not know anything about you and about your past. So they have to dig and they have to engage with you in a conversation that hopefully you are engaged in an honest, fearless manner. Because that's what's necessary. Boy, I tell my students this thing and they think I'm crazy. Maybe I am, but I don't think so. I always tell my students, well, if you have the right mindset, any or every conversation has the potential to be therapeutic if you have the right mindset. I'm going to share with you something very personal. A few years ago, my dad passed away. And it was obviously quite an event. But here's the thing, the interesting thing about the event. Both my siblings, my brother and my sisters, they were pretty, uh, you know, depressed, and it was pretty hard on them. My dad's demise, but not for me. I realized right after he died that there was an emotional disconnect between him and me. So my siblings, they were devastated, and I was fine. And that kind of bothered me a little bit because, I love my dad. And it wasn't like we hated each other. No, I mean, we had a great relationship, but it was not a, devastating to me like it was for my siblings. And then something interesting began to happen to me. I started dreaming about my dad every single night. And it was so persistent that it became almost annoying because I did not know what to make of it. And in every dream, like my dad was not doing anything crazy or important. He was just there. I was like having, let's say, I was sitting at the table with people, my family talking, and my dad was just there, sitting at the table, quiet. Or I remember one, I was in a car and I was speaking to my mom, I think, next to me, and my dad was sitting in the back seat, quiet, but he was there. And his presence there in all of my dreams was just, I did not know what to make of it, but I would wake up in the morning. I was like, gosh, I'm dreaming about my dad again. He's again in my dreams. Why? Every single night. Well, I had a friend at school that we would talk about, all sorts of things. And I brought it up to her. I said, you know what? I don't know. She knew about my relationship with dad and how I felt about, the way I felt about his after he died. And so when I told her about these dreams, you know, she listened to me, and I said, I don't know what to make of it. I don't understand. And she told me, Luciano, it's so obvious. And I said, what's obvious? She said, you're dreaming with your dad every night? That means that you miss your dad. And friends, that was so true. I never thought about it before. Uh, it wasn't like my dad and I, we had our differences. And the emotional disconnect is real, even though I loved him, but it was just weird to deal with that, the persistent dreams. But when she said that, it was just so, it just made perfect sense. And you know what? I never acknowledged it, and I never said it to myself and to other people. You know what? It's true. I miss my dad. There's nothing wrong about it, about saying it. So I said it to myself. I still do. I miss my dad. I remember all the good memories, the good experiences we had together, and there are many. And okay, here's the crazy part about the story. After she said that to me, and I realized that it was true, I stopped having dreams with my dad that very day. And I was like, okay, this is just crazy. Zero dreams with my dad. The dreams were gone. It felt like there was something wrong inside of me. I didn't know what it was, and I couldn't fix it. But that fixed it. What she said to me, my coworker, you just miss your dad, and it's so obvious. It was so obvious to her, and it's true. You're right. I miss him. And okay, I still dream every now and then. I remember waking up in the morning and remembering I was dreaming and my dad was there, but it wasn't persistent like it was, right? And it wasn't annoying. So it was like, I don't know, my body, my subconscious or whatever was just trying to tell me something was wrong. I had to fix something. Well, my therapist was another teacher, a coworker. Now, uh, I kid you not, friends, when I say every conversation has the potential to be therapeutic, and everybody, it's a potential therapist. Why not? Because in a conversation, once again, you can find truth. You can find an answer to a problem. You can see a detail that you're not paying attention to, but you need somebody else to provide you feedback, to help you out in the analysis. So that was quite something, and and I do it, on purpose, right? I do it deliberately. I have a problem and I open up about it because I want to see what people say. I want to see if somebody can give me a feedback and I can see something, recognize, wow, that's true. Yes, I was not paying attention to that, and you're right. Now I can see things more clearly. Boy, that makes my life easier and better. So it definitely, that one time, it just helped me tremendously. There was healing, friends. I mean, there's no other word for it. I think it was evident in the way I told the story. And so, having said all that, friends, having said all that about the idea of intersubjective rationality, and yeah, rationality being discursive and so on. The goal, remember, is to know ourselves. That's the goal. Okay, well, there's two ways to do that. One way is we know ourselves when we reflect. Once again, that means when we examine ourselves, we ask ourselves these why questions, right? And we do it with with intent, right? With determination. Like we want to get at the very bottom of this. Okay, that's one way you learn about yourself. The other way, you invite others into the analysis. You ask people's feedback, their opinions. Now, ideally, you want to do both. Kierkegaard, unfortunately, he was a genius, but he did all his reflection and analysis on his own, right? He was not very friendly in that regard. But I've learned to know myself better by asking people their opinion, what they think, and opening up about issues, things that I'm struggling with, things that I don't understand. And boy, those conversations have been tremendously helpful, liberating, empowering. Oh gosh, I don't regret any one of those conversations. So that's the two things, the two ways to know yourself. Once again, you do it on your own, reflecting, and you invite other people. You listen to people's feedback, listen to their opinions, and then later reflect about that information. Because you have to assess, okay, what they're telling you, whether it makes sense or not, whether you can see the value in the input or not. You gotta do that later too. So reflect and invite other people, thinking always that the more people engaged in an analysis, the better the analysis. Now, let me tell you examples, right? About one example of, or before I say that, I'm sorry, something that I'm forgetting that it's extremely important. The problem about inviting other people. Maybe it was obvious to you when I started talking about this, right? This idea of inviting others into the analysis. It requires courage, friends. And I totally get it. It requires courage to open up about your problems, about your struggles, your insecurities, your shortcomings. It takes courage. And this is why I'm hoping you remember Pascal in our lesson one. Pascal says that one of the reasons why people don't examine themselves, don't reflect, it is because they don't want to confront their inadequacies. They don't want to see their inadequacies face to face because that doesn't feel great. Nobody likes looking at their own shortcomings and looking at them clearly and face them. Nobody feels comfortable doing that. So, and again, Pascal would say, right? Oh, so people prefer the distractions, get distracted and they prefer the entertainment. Well, the goal here is to know ourselves and feel empowered and feel free and once again attain repose and meaning in our life. So it's necessary for you to have the courage to open up, inviting others into your life and into your thinking. Imagine this example that we talked about in the first lesson. Do you remember the middle schooler who wants to play in the JV football team at school? Remember that example? We said that okay, this kid, he dreams about football. He's a big football fan and he loves football. He loves the game. And he goes to the tryouts and he doesn't cut it to the team because it's not good. Okay, well, if you are if you are this kid and if you begin asking yourself why, you begin like, okay, I'm gonna reflect. I'm gonna find the answer. I'm gonna dig. Why wasn't I accepted into the team? And okay, let's say you don't find the answer. Just let's just say the problem is just too complicated for you. Well, if you invite other people into that analysis, well, let's say you ask your mom or your best friend, and you ask them honestly, hey, why you think I didn't make it to the team? Be ready, because what you're going to hear, you're not going to like. People, if they're honest, they're going to tell you the truth. That truth that are obvious to them. Well, honey, you are a little overweight, so you don't run very fast when you do. And you spend a lot of time in your room just eating, and yeah, you love football, but you only play on weekends. And okay, you probably, like I said, you're not gonna like that to hear that. But you know what? Your opportunity to make it to the team next time, it's right there. It's right there in those words. Even if you don't like the words, even if you don't like to acknowledge the fact that you're overweight, that you don't have the physicality, that you don't really engage in physical activity on a regular basis, and you're because you're lazy and you're neglectful about your eating habits. Well, when once you are confronted, once you hear people telling you these things, well, then you have to make a choice, right? Okay, you want to really, do you really want to play this game? Do you really want to be part of the team? Okay, then there's some things you have to do, some corrections you have to make in your life. And then you do. So, having the information that you were looking for, you should, right, make the necessary corrections if you really care about the game, about playing in the team. Because maybe you will discover that in the end, deep inside, you're not that excited about football. And I'm a full-time philosophy professor, but I applied for years, many years, different colleges, so I could have a full-time position, because I had had been teaching it for some years now, but as a part-time, as an adjunct, we call it. And I applied several times, and in my current college, I applied 3 times. There were 3 opportunities, 3 openings, full-time positions. And the first time I applied, and guess what? Well, they hired somebody else. And of course, that was not a um, that was a pretty hard pill to swallow. And okay, once again, right? I thought I'm not good enough, but I thought, okay, why? Why wasn't I given the position? I was serious about the question, and I thought I'm going to reach out to my supervisor, who was part of the hiring committee, who decided to hire this other person instead of me. And I reached out to him and said, "Hey, dude, listen, I'm not angry. I want to know. Just help me out. Why wasn't I accepted? Why wasn't I given the position? What did the other person, the person who was hired, what did she have that I didn't? Please help me. Give me some feedback, because I want to be ready next time. I want to have what it takes." And friends, that was a great conversation. That was very useful what he told me, and I was taking notes, taking notes. Oh, okay, I got to do this about her presentation and during the interview and that sort of thing. And okay, a few months later, there was another opening, full-time position. I applied, wasn't given the position. I called another supervisor and I said, expressed my frustration. I said, help me out here. Please help me understand. What am I not doing wrong? Why I'm not good enough? No, no, it's not that you're not good enough. Okay, then tell me, what can I do so I can feel like, okay, I have a real shot next time if there's a third possibility. And this person gave me some great feedback. And guess what? Third opportunity came, an opening for a full-time position, applied, made it to the interviews, boom, I was given the position. Now, I could have, you know, could have been resentful, after the first attempt, and I could have blamed it on whatever or whoever, but because I was serious about being a full-time instructor, and that was my goal. It's been my goal for many, many years. It was my goal, and and I knew about here the idea of rationality being discursive, and I said no. Maybe I think I have a good application package. Maybe I think I'm a great candidate, and maybe I'm not. Maybe there's some things that I'm not seeing. Maybe I don't. There are some skills that I don't have that are necessary for the position. So I want to know what those skills are. I did, and I had this conversation, and I got the information that I needed. I got better. Boom, I was given the position. So, and friends, I often say this in my videos. This is not about me. I mean, I'm just providing you an example. But you can probably connect this idea with other experiences that you have had. The question is, how open are you to listen to other people, and how brave are you in receiving feedback? How how willing are you to open up about your shortcomings, your flaws, your insecurities? Um, I mean, I get that some people, and I get this, when I ask my students, why don't you ask questions in class? I mean, everybody looks like they get it, like nobody asks questions, or there's always like two or three students who always ask questions, and those are the smartest ones. Well, that's not a coincidence, friends. But there's this idea, especially in young people, that if you raise your hand and ask questions, you're going to look dumb in front of everybody else. Well, I got news for you. That it's a dumb idea, friends, to believe that it's dumb to ask questions. That is actually a dumb thing to believe. Socrates was acknowledged as the most intelligent philosopher in ancient Greece during his time. Everybody knew it. And one day they asked Socrates, Socrates, why do everybody says that you're the wisest man in Greece? Why? You know what he says? What he said? He said, because of all the great philosophers in Greece, I'm the only one who acknowledges I'm an ignorant. I'm the only one who acknowledges that I don't have all the answers. And Socrates, that was his mission. That's the thing that he did in his life. He would go around asking people questions and telling them, please help me understand because I don't know. And Socrates was no dumb individual. But again, you can look at the philosophy literature. Socrates was probably the most important philosopher of all times. And he asked a lot of questions. And he was brave. Because that's the other thing, right? The element of courage in facing our inadequacies and listening to people telling us about our mistakes and our flaws. Okay, get it. It doesn't feel great. But that's where growth is. That's where the information you're looking for is. I I find I just find it funny to just put it that way. How much people today are afraid of judgment, right? And they say, "Oh, I hate judgment." And therefore we have judgment-free zones, right? We have safe spaces because people want to go to a place where they can open up about anything or say whatever and no one's going to judge them, right? No one's going to say, "Oh, that's dumb." Because who likes that, right? Being told that one is dumb, right? So people hate judgment. You know what I tell my students? Another crazy thing that I tell them often? I said, friends, you know what? I love judgment. Like, oh gosh, I thrive on judgment. Like, literally, I do. They look at me like, what are you talking about? You have no idea how much I grow when I hear people's input about me, about the way I teach my class. As a matter of fact, I only offer one extra credit opportunity in my classes, in my philosophy classes, at the end of the semester. Only one chance for students to make some bonus extra points toward the final grade. You know what it is? I tell them, if you complete the course evaluation, you take a screenshot and you send me you email me the screenshot showing me you completed the evaluation, I will give you 3 bonus points toward your final grade. What is the course evaluation? It's a survey that students complete anonymously, in which they judge my class. They evaluate me, and they type in comments about my class, about my teaching style, my personality, my assignments, everything. I tell them, I give you 3 points for you to judge me, just to let you know how much I love and how much I need and I thrive on judgment. Because you know what, friends, after the semester, I got a chance to see this feedback. Of course, not with the students' names, right? They're anonymous. But when I read them, I go like, wow, oh, okay, so wow, that's nice. Most students like this thing, and they love this activity. Oh, and I see students who didn't like certain activities and certain things that I do in class, and then I make corrections. And then the next semester starts, and I'm a better instructor. Yes, doesn't sound very humble for me to say that, but I believe it. I believe it, and people, my students tell me often how much they enjoy my classes. But that's because I'm listening to their feedback. That's because I'm opening up. I'm exposing myself. I'm saying, okay, here I am, friends. Judge me all you want. Tell me everything. Throw everything you want to throw me, please do. If you're going to tell me I'm an a-hole, okay, tell me at least why you think I'm an a-hole, because I want to know, right? I want to learn. So I appreciate it. Thank you for the judgment. So please, friends, get this stupid idea out of your head. This notion that judgment is bad. That's where you're going to grow. And that's where healing is. But if you keep it to yourself, that's not going to help. There's not going to be growth. There's not going to be self-knowledge if you're just private about your own life and your own struggles and insecurities. Man, I have insecurities. I mean, everybody does. Everybody struggles with things. So that's not something unique to you. Everybody has gone through difficult stuff, experiences in life. There's nothing that you will say that will shock people at this point. We know so much about tragedies and misfortunes in people. We're so well informed about them, right? Through social media, among other things. I mean, nothing is going to really shock anybody. So, of course, you don't have to open up to anybody, but open up to someone, especially if you're struggling with something. If there's something you don't understand, there's something you don't like about yourself, something you don't feel right about. Open up. Your opportunity for growth and to be free and to feel empowered, to have repose in life, to have meaning in life is right there. Listen. You know what? This about an hour ago, I was with my wife. We were reading. We like to go to Barnes and Nobles. There's a great cafe, and we sit and order cafe and we read, right, for about an hour. And I read something really, really interesting. I'm reading this book. I don't have any issues right now, but just because I'm so interested in mental health issues, right? How not to kill yourself by Clancy Martin. Once again, I'm fine. I'm happy. I'm just I'm just learning, right? I'm asking a why question. Why do people commit suicide? And I'm learning, right? And I found this really, really interesting. Mr. Martin here is talking about an NBA star, Kevin Love, and he says somebody who also has struggled with suicidal thoughts, and he says the following about Kevin Love. Kevin Love, who has struggled with thoughts of suicide for years, similarly insists that talking about his close brushes with an attempt is one of the best techniques for dealing with his thinking. Nothing haunts us like the things we don't say, he says. Right, Mr. Love. Listen to that one, please. Nothing haunts us like the things we don't say. So, keeping it in, it's actually more harmful. I'm not, I really hope I'm not giving you the impression that I'm making all this stuff up, friends. You keep your problems, your life to yourself because you don't like to be judged. You're depriving yourself of the opportunity to be stronger, to heal, and to have an amazing life, to see what you're doing wrong. So please get rid of that. Get rid of that mindset because it's not going to help you grow, and definitely it's not going to help you know yourself. Okay, let me just finish with this. I know this has been a long video, but like I said at the beginning, this information, I mean, this notion, it's just mind blowing. It was mind blowing to me. I hope it is also for you. Reason is intersubjective. It's collective, basically. Good thinking is collective. It's discursive. It needs a discourse, a conversation. Therefore, there's therapy, right? And there's healing in a conversation, and there's enlightenment in a conversation. You learn things, right? And again, think about that crazy idea. Everybody, it's a potential therapist. Every conversation has the potential to be therapeutic in your life. I'm telling you because I have proven that to myself like so many times. I can give you much more examples, but again, this video it's getting too long. At this point, okay, it's quite obvious to you, it should be, the relationship between existentialism and psychology, which is why, right, I'm reading about a man who is an expert on suicide. The next videos in this second lesson are all psychology. I'm going to be quoting psychologists and using examples of patients, and there are a couple of very important ideas that I want to share with you in the upcoming videos in this second lesson. So I hope that you continue watching and you join me. And gosh, I really hope that the information in this video was clear, was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, please post a comment, and I'll be more than happy to respond if it's a question. If it's a comment, if you want to give me some feedback, please do. You know now how I feel about feedback. So please do. I will really appreciate it. Once again, I just hope you continue watching. There's more videos in this second lesson. Okay, this is video number 2 of lesson 2. Now the next video is video 3 of lesson 2. So I hope you continue watching, and I see you then. Bye bye.